Morning, everybody. So what I'm going to talk about this morning is why Wi-Fi is becoming quite a hot topic now in all sorts of venues, but stadia and sporting venues in particular. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you face in deploying those types of solutions, and some thoughts around how you might think about commercializing that proposition and how you might start to make the costs and the benefits start to stack up. So if we kick off, why are we talking about this now? So I don't really need to tell this room the huge growth in usage of smartphones, tablets, and other mobile devices. So we're heading towards 70% smartphone penetration in the UK, which is the second highest in the world. 50% of tablets now are Wi-Fi only, so increasingly people are choosing to use Wi-Fi and cellular interoperably. And the fact that people look at their smartphone 150 times a day, I'm pretty sure when I looked yesterday, the average was higher in this room as well. So I'm told there's 150 people here, and at peak we had 240 devices connected yesterday. So you're all pretty au fait with what's going on here. And when you think about the mobile industry more broadly, a couple of weeks ago, I was at Mobile World Congress, which is the sort of global event for people in the mobile industry. 85,000 people over 4 days. It's exhilarating and depressing in equal measure. But 3 or 4 years ago, Wi-Fi really was a 4-letter word at that event, and they really didn't want to talk about it. This year, the most important thing people wanted to know when they arrived, what's the Wi-Fi password? People wanted to get onto it. So it's suddenly becoming really quite mainstream. The other change that you're seeing is that really networks, whether it's cellular or Wi-Fi or whatever, are starting to just become kind of pipes, because lots of over-the-top services are being provided. So you'll have seen WhatsApp, 19 billion pounds. 330 million people use that service every day to send messages. So text messages are really last year's news, and actually the speed I get them on the O2 network, they are yesterday's news. They really don't arrive in real time. So who am I and why am I talking about this? So the cloud is Sky's public Wi-Fi provider. So we're the largest in the UK on the high street. So we have over 21,000 hotspots in some of the sort of biggest brand names in the UK. The business was acquired by Sky 3 years ago, and we've rapidly accelerated both the number of sites, but also the capacity of that service. And you'll see some of the stats there in terms of usage. It is astonishing to us every week when we come in and look at last week's stats, just how quickly this is growing. So on a Saturday, we typically have 150,000 people connecting at peak. 2 years ago, that was 10,000. 2 million devices connect to our network every week, and that's only going up. So those stats are a couple of months old, so probably they're already out of date. And why is this relevant to this room? So when you think about your venues, they're not actually just a bowl with people sitting and watching sport. They're a whole collection of stuff. So, you've got bars, you've got retail environments, you've got hospitality suites, you've got back office requirements because you want to keep people connected, whether it's security or whatever, connected to other things. So actually, when you start to look at the types of places where we are, whether it's, the 10,000 pubs that we're in, or whether it's, Alton Towers, which has, high volumes of people sort of transiting through, and Lords, which I'll come on to talk about. Actually, you need to think about your venue is more than just the bowl. It's a whole collection of different types of assets. So, what things do you need to think about when deploying Wi-Fi in your venue? Well, clearly in large sporting venues and arenas, it's blindingly obvious there is a sudden influx of visitors, particularly coming towards match day, and it's probably more true in the UK than perhaps you see in some of the some of the states where people think this stuff is more advanced. People do rush in at the end. They're there for their 105 minutes, and they kind of disappear again. So you got all these people coming in, and that creates a whole bunch of problems because they all come in with 1 or 2 devices, all with little radios, all trying to do stuff. So that's all kind of interfering with each other. And people are quite good at blocking transmission of radio signals as well. So, when they were testing out making Wi-Fi work on planes, they used to fly planes around with sacks of potatoes in every seat just to test it out. Now, in a 40,000-seater stadium, that's a lot of potatoes. So you can't really do that. So you've got to start planning for what's going to be the impact of those people being in the stadium. The other thing is you can control the Wi-Fi usage, but Wi-Fi is an unlicensed spectrum. And so what that means is, the devices can kind of do what they want. And when you've got a whole heterogeneous set of devices, whether it's Apple, Android, Windows Phone, etc., those things all do stuff slightly differently. And so you're trying to create a homogeneous kind of experience for everybody, but with quite a different range of devices and things that people are kind of connecting. So it makes it a very challenging radio environment, very busy, very noisy, very dirty. So what do you need to do to think about being successful in this? The first thing is a little bit counterintuitive. So actually, you need to limit the number of people who are connecting to each access point that you put into your stadium. So, what you might think is, well, I could get away with fewer if I just make them more powerful and connect to more people. That's actually the wrong answer, because what you need to do is have a gated number of people connecting to each access point. So the experience for each of those users is as good as it can be. So when I talk about the experience we have of the 2 million devices we connect every week, it's about making sure that the experience is as good as it can be. And that might mean that some people just don't see the service. They don't see the Wi-Fi. Because that's probably a better experience than they can see it, but they just get that circle going round and round. And actually, if you just divide it by however many people connected, and slowly, as more people arrive, the whole service degrades, that's not a great experience. So you have to actually be very intelligent in how you manage the number of people connecting to each access point. Then it's about design. The design up front is very important. So working out how much coverage you're going to have for each cell. And I'll talk a little bit in a second about how we thought about this at Lord's. And it talks about custom-made antennas. That doesn't mean you sort of go off and have to get some bespoke tailor to make each access point. They are 10 really standard access points, but you're tweaking them. So you're tweaking them to say, turn the power down so it doesn't propagate so far, and narrow the beam so it only covers this stand and not, unfortunately, these people over here won't be covered because they'll have their own access point. I talked about the venues having lots of different types of spaces, so whether it was your bar or your shop or your hospitality area. And you need to treat those different spaces as what they are. They're different types of spaces, so you need to design different rules and different deployments for each of those. So in a hospitality suite with 20 people in, you might want to deploy something quite different. You might also want to make it called something else, so it's just for those people. So if there's any leakage into the stadium, you haven't got people sitting in the stadium trying to hook onto it and ruining that experience. And then the tricky part, estimating the impact of those 50,000 sacks of potatoes that are going to be in your stadium. And that's where it's quite difficult. And I think it's important to realise with these types of deployments, this isn't like putting the seats in. You don't just put them in and then you've got 50,000 seats and you know where they all are. These are quite organic solutions. So you put them in and you tweak them, and we've got various pieces of kit and technology which we've got a Finnish guy called Sami with a backpack that pretends to be 1,000 people, and to try and sort of plan out where you put this stuff. But you do have to tweak it over time, and this is true of all environments. So not just 50,000 seater stadiums. This could be true of a coffee shop. So we have to dynamically manage some of those things over time. So it's not install and forget. It's an ongoing service. So if I take a case study, I mentioned Lord's. So we worked with Lord's to implement Wi-Fi into the stadium ahead of the Ashes last year. But what was quite important with Lord's was they were very clear what they wanted to do with the Wi-Fi. So they took a very phased approach into how they were installing this. So day one was not about all 28,500 people in their seats getting to use free Wi-Fi. So initially it was to cover the press areas. So press, obviously nowadays, a lot of wireless stuff, getting all their content back to base. Cover the hospitality areas, and actually cover the bar areas, which if you've been to Lord's sort of tend to be around the back of the bowl. Because that's where they thought they would get the kind of most value from the service relative to the actual cost of deploying it. Then the second phase, we actually put some of the kit into parts of the stand, but we didn't cover all of it. The important thing there was the guys at Lord's and us had agreed, this is what we're going to do, and this is what it's going to achieve. And so there was no confusion down the track. So just because some guys in this stand over here couldn't access Wi-Fi, they were quite relaxed about that, because what was more important was the people in hospitality had a very good experience. The press were very happy. There was one guy, he was on there all day. He was just downloading, image after image, was absolutely killing the thing. But it really kind of worked for them. And so now we'll probably look to go back in and do more. And I think the other thing to point out there is they decided this was going to be a free unlimited service to users. And again, when you're thinking about these things, you have to think, what am I trying to achieve here? So if you want it to make it free and unlimited to everybody, because that's a great perk, that's great, but it comes at a price, because you're actually having to build capacity for all of those people. So I suspect less people used the Wi-Fi at the Marriott last night than they would have if it wasn't £15. So you can gate demand, but you have to decide what your kind of business model is and how you want to treat the people, in your venue. And again, I think it's important to realise that different different sports have different needs. So the average use time was 3 hours. You're not going to get that at a football match. It's going to be quite a different type of experience. Rugby, again, is going to be quite different. So, again, it's working out what is the right thing. What is the right thing for you? And not surprisingly, lunch and tea were the busiest times. So, there's break in play, people suddenly engaging and connecting to the service and finding out what's going on elsewhere. So, how can you use the Wi-Fi, to better run your business and better work with your fans? So, one of the things about Wi-Fi versus cellular is, you have to do something to connect to it. So, there's already an opportunity to engage with the customer at that point of connection. The first time around, you may want to collect a bunch of data about, who they are, their age, etc., etc. Suddenly now, you've collected a whole bunch of data about who's coming to your events. And one of the most consistent things we hear from venue owners is, well, somebody buys the tickets, but we don't know who comes. Take someone like the RFU. They give the tickets to clubs. They have no idea who comes to Twickenham and fills those 82,000 seats. Similarly, you might buy a ticket for 4 people. You don't know who's sitting in the other 3 seats. So suddenly now you've got information about who are all the people who are coming to your venue, which gives you an opportunity to target them both whilst they're in the venue, but also when they're not there. And again, when I come back to what is it you're trying to achieve with the service, if you're, Arsenal at the Emirates, your objective probably isn't to get more people to come to the stadium. You kind of, the price suggests that they've already got that one kind of done, right? So that's not their objective. So actually, for them, it's about amplifying what's going on in the stadium more broadly, to an international audience and trying to generate further commercial revenues, internationally. If you're Leeds United, for example, actually you don't sell out every match, and therefore having ways to engage with fans in a timely way. Hey, you came, you haven't been for a couple of months. Here's an offer to come to the game today or whatever. That's quite interesting, because they want to drive people into the stadium and get revenues from that. So again, there isn't one size fits all here. It really is about what you're trying to achieve with the service. So what I was going to do, so those of you who have connected to the service, and it's quite a lot of you, you probably will have seen this when you first opened your browser. It's kind of, we have this portal, and really it's a page that's as you go through when you've connected, which is a chance to present you with things. Essentially, it's web-based, and therefore you're quite able to sort of change it in kind of real time. So obviously we've put some of our assets up there, but whether it's your betting partner, could be your shop, could be news of what's going on elsewhere. All sorts of things. Could be some video content we saw yesterday, how quickly you can create some specific kind of club content and throw it out onto the web. Because it's web-based, you can kind of change this in real time. So again, we heard yesterday that 20 minutes before the game, there's a bunch of key messages that I think it was Middlesbrough needed to get across. You can kind of change this in real time in terms of connecting with people. So if you think about what might be some things that might happen in an average fan's journey, and this is just within the stadium. So they arrive at the stadium, a little bit spooky, but they could get a message. Hi Tom. So because I know who you are already, so I'm engaged with you already. There might be some video highlights, might be from a previous game, might be just some background stuff from the club. So whilst I'm waiting for my friends to turn up, I can sit there and watch, some interviews with the players or something from training or something they've done in the community that week. Offers on food and drink. Again, different stadia want you to do different things. Some want you out the door as fast as they can get you out, and they don't want you in the stadium. Some want you to stay there for longer before and afterwards. So there's a chance there to say, if you hang around after the game in this section of the stadium, there's a 2-for-1 on meat pies or whatever. So it's a chance to start engaging with people before the game. Then during the match, what sorts of things can people do? So in-play betting is a major growth area, and mobile betting as well. But connectivity is poor in stadia. So the chance to actually be able to bet while you're in there, and you could think of linkage to live odds, which are on the screens, on the perimeter screens, so you can see the odds, you can get on, you can connect. If you've got your own betting partner, we do realise there are other betting companies than SkyBet, then you can work with them to integrate this into the relationship you have with them. One of the most important things that people want to know is what are the scores in other football matches. It's astonishing. I mean, you could, Jen was saying yesterday, you could put it on the screen, right? But so you don't know till half time what the score is. Now, when those Tottenham players got attacked by that lasagna from the Marriott Hotel a few years ago, we all had to know what was going on at the Tottenham match at Arsenal, because that was going to decide who got the Champions League slot. So that, it's actually being able to keep up to date with what's going on elsewhere is important. Using Gloatebook, as I call it, to share pictures with your friends that you're actually at the game, and what's going on, you're enjoying the match. And also sort of interactive stuff, so you can be voting in real time about what's going on in the game. And again, maybe you can link that into what's happening in the perimeter. And then kind of after the match, post-match offers from the club store. So, come down to the store now, there's, et cetera. Maybe some guy scored in the game, you can promote, come and get your, Giroud shirt or whatever it might be. Tickets for upcoming matches. Say, did you have a good time today? There's still tickets available for this game. It might have been a cup game. This is when they're going to go on sale. Those types of things. And also, we talked yesterday about, again, the Adobe stuff, how you can flip stuff around. So again, you could put some video content up there, which you can access from your device. And I think the other thing to say is, I've sort of showed the portal, which is a mechanism for showcasing content. But that could equally be clicking through to an app. So I know some clubs are sort of doing their own apps. So getting people to use the app, and this content could be available in there. So if I try and sort of pull all that together, it is quite a commercial challenge to make this all stack up. Why haven't lots of people done this till now? I think there's a few reasons. Firstly, I'm not convinced the technology was really ready a few years ago. So Sky acquired the cloud 3 years ago. It seemed like a blindingly obvious thing for us to do, to go and put Wi-Fi in football stadiums. One of the main reasons we haven't is because we just didn't think the technology was ready, and there was only really one show in town, and you don't want to be beholden to one provider in terms of kit. Also, the solutions were prohibitively expensive. So you can install a very comprehensive, high-density Wi-Fi solution. It will cost you several million pounds, and it probably will do a very, very good job for lots of people. But that might not be what's the right thing for your club. That might not be, when you think back to why do I want this, what am I doing this for, that might not actually kind of make sense. So you've got the price was right up here. And these commercial models are kind of unproven. There's a whole bunch of stuff there. I think the data one is the one that sort of went under the radar. I think everyone got that betting was a potential opportunity, but the data thing has gone under the radar a bit. But those models are a bit unproven, but it's starting to get some appetite from people as they realise the importance of mobile connectivity to invest behind these things. So our real focus has been trying to get that cost down. And get those revenues up. There is going to be a little bit of a leap of faith. That's certainly true. So I'm not convinced that every club is going to have this by the summer. But I think actually what you will start to see people being quite innovative in this space, doing some quite interesting stuff, and actually proving that model out. And I think once a few people start to get it right, then there's a real big opportunity for lots of venues and stadia to make a lot of value from Wi-Fi. But again, I think the key takeaways I would say is it is all about connectivity. If we're connecting, I think our mobile devices, we're connected on average an hour and 49 minutes a day, according to the FT this morning. 45% of data is offloaded via Wi-Fi. We want to be connected all the time. Yet when we're doing probably the most exciting thing we're going to do all day, we just drop off the grid. It doesn't kind of feel right. And people want to engage all the time. I think it's about deciding what is it that you want to achieve with your Wi-Fi. Of course, clubs want their fans to have the best possible experience they can have. But in reality, what does that really mean for you? Where do you want the Wi-Fi to work for you? And then it's being open and having that honest conversation with your provider about what are we going to achieve with this, whether it's a phased approach, whether it's all in, and then thinking through, how am I going to monetize these things? Because if you don't think about that stuff up front, you're going to, it's sort of destined to fail. So hopefully that was a little useful kind of whistle-stop tour through Stadium Wi-Fi. Thank you.